And we're back with another neural sim, and this is my main team against Njall Bedrock for now. But the good thing about this boss is that we can use a whole lot of different teams against it, where the runs are mostly less than 30 seconds. Although I'm pretty sure the well-invested team will have a way faster run than 10 seconds. Next is the Longyan Team. Now before I forget, this boss has an RNG on start. You know, if the boss doesn't remove its shell on the first attack, then it's better to just restart. It's because the white shell will reduce a lot of our damage. But hey, that looks like another 10 seconds as well. I didn't expect it to be equal to Fenny Pureheart, but that's good. Or I'll have to redo the Fenny Pureheart run. Here's Acacia Chrono Echo. And basically this boss has a weakness against thermal and kinetic. And again, as long as the boss removes its shell, in the first attack, then, you just do your regular combos here. And that should do it against the boss.
Transphase core. Wayne, don't forget to save.
And it's a few milliseconds slower than the other two. And the last record is with Fritia. And here's Chensing Jade Arc. I think the boss has a slight 30 electric resistance. And again with Chensing, we need the right amount of stacks before we ult.
The end? This is just the beginning. I've foreseen your inevitable end.
And that's almost 2 seconds slower than Acacia Chrono Echo. And here's Katya Rhapsody. Now the boss does have a frost resistance of around 30 as well, but we have an additional, I think, 25% on this week's debuff of the current boss. But it looks like it's still quite doable. Just a few milliseconds slower than the Chensing team. And we have Clarina, which I rarely use actually, since she's not actually well built. And with what I have, Siris Pippin is just, have a higher investment than my current Njall, so that's why I use Siris here. But to be fair, she is kinetic and a skilled DPS, so she's pretty good against this boss. And it's only a second slower than Katya Rhapsody team. And the funny thing here is that we have Siris Ksana, which is M3 and tier 2. And she is also a skilled DPS, and the boss is still weak to thermal as well, so it's still a bit slower than Clarina, where Clarina is only using a purple tier 5 and she's M0. And I'm sure her logistics is also not as good as what I have with Siris Ksana here. And with all that said, it's still a second slower, as you can see here, than Clarina. And here's with Aquila as the support. And here's Lyfe Infinite Sight, since the boss is a bit weaker to kinetic, although it does have a ballistic resistant shield. The only good thing about it is that the purple shield is not as tanky, so the ballistic doesn't have too much of a problem. Now this is 2 seconds slower than Siris Ksana. Now we have the best DPS for this boss, which is Enya Tempest. Now unfortunately my Tempest is not well built, and if you have a better Testy Magician to support Enya, then that would be better. But with what I have, Siris Freepin is just better than my current Test the Magician. And oh yeah, I guess Enya Tempest here is also using the standard orange tier 2 shotgun, but only as an alternative. I don't actually recommend people buying the shotgun, unless you just lose it to a 50-50 on weapon. And here's Haru Raikou. Now the boss also have a chaos resistance of 30, but for an Octus Tribe unit, I think this is still not bad. I guess I didn't need to press and hold E. And she's just a millisecond, on my current Enya investment. And here's Nita Pulse, which is also not bad for an Octus Drive unit, but she is a bit slower than, the Haru Raikou. She is the first of the Octus Tribe unit.
I got this. Ew, just a scratch. That should be the last of them.
So it's a few milliseconds slower than the Haru Raikou. And here's Cherno Enigma. Now the good thing here is that Njall still doesn't have the white shell here, so it still enabled me to deal full damage, on the press and hold skill.
Did you see me?
And here's with Aquila.
Did you see me? I hope today won't.
And here's with Katya Dawnwing.
Watch out for my trap. You lost your chance to run.
So 2 seconds slower than Cherno. And here's Despantisha rather than Siris Freepin. And here's Fritia of Sparkdrive. I do think she is slower than the other Octus Tribe because, she has a sort of a longer setup. I need like full stacks here. And apparently that wasn't enough. It's very close to Katya Dawnwing though.
Not quite a success.
Not quite indeed. And here's Bubu the Geomancer, which I also rarely use. I think other than her first release, the other time that I use her is probably the Katya Frost boss, which hasn't been a boss on Neural for quite some time now. Now White Despantisha and Aquila, well, it's because it's the fastest run. Now, and the mindset here is that if I use Fenny Starshine, Bubu's magazine will run out really fast anyway. Versus like test becoming a sub DPS which doesn't run out as long as we shoot. I'd say it's still decent considering she's not well built. Although she is very close to our Aquila team here. Only downside with Aquila is that we need to really move close to Njall so that her skill will, be in range. And we just shoot and ult if able. And hopefully we don't get interrupted since Njall can interrupt us. Luckily it only did that one plunge attack because it can just do it probably 3 times. And it's just a few milliseconds than my current Bubu Geomancer.
Have they helped, darling?
And we have Haru Absconditus, which, man, it's been a while since I used her on Neural Simulation. I kinda miss the Finn boss days where, she's my go-to unit for that. She's still not fully well built, she's only using the standard handgun, and then she's only using Twilight Logistics because that's currently her best with what I have. But yeah, I'm kinda glad to be able to use her again with kinda decent runtime, I guess.
But not today, and not to you.
So she's a 2 seconds slower than our current Marian Aquila. And here's my current Nerida, although she is also not well built. And honestly, I was thinking if I'm gonna include this or not because I was thinking of the runs that are only around 30 seconds or below. But you know what? This is close enough. I see a non-invested unit. She needed like 3 ultimates.
Can't hurt us. Leave it to me. All done, boss.
But yeah, it's still close enough to 30, I guess.
Is the greatest mercy I grant my enemy.
And we pretty much have the same Fox boss with the same Longyan Team here.
Allow me to set the stage. Allow me to set the stage.
And that interruption kind of helped me. It's a skill animation since I'm still doing damage to this boss. And another good interruption here since I'm able to ult right away. All that on the first run. I think that's the first time I ever got unlucky on this boss.
This is starting to get fun.
And here's the boss info. Again, the purple shell is weak against skill DPS, and here's the resistances. Oh, and again, that's why we need the white shell to be removed. Apologies, by the way, if you can hear the thunder here. And here's the buff for the week, which is kinda good for Haru since, the buff stacks every second. And we have an additional frost resistance. And the crit rate doesn't really matter here. And then we need to do less dodge if we're doing skill damage, or it's gonna be reduced. And here's the build used. Starting from the very top, which is Acacia Chrono Echo Tier 1 and attack alignment, typically for a skill DPS. And 2. Here's Lyfe Infinite Sight Tier 2 and attack alignment with attack skill haste M3. Here's Nita Pulse, Tier 2 since she's Octodrive. Max HP alignment since she scales on max HP. And here's Fritia Sparkdrive, Tier 2 as well since she's Octus. And pretty much the free logistics that we got. Max Octodrive. Here's Marian Aquila, Tier 1. And here's the free logistics that we got before. And M2. Oh yeah. Marian Riptide I did use on Nerida. Tier 5 purple. And the free logistics as well that we got. M2. Here's Haru Raikou, which is Tier 2 since again Octodrive. Free logistics. Max Octodrive. And here's Haru Absconditus, Tier 2, but this is the standard 5-star weapon. And Twilight, which is my current best for her, M2. Here's Cherno Enigma, Tier 2. And attack alignment can still be improved. And M2. Here's Fenny Pureheart, Tier 1. And attack alignment. And M3. Here's Fenny Starshine since I did use her on Lyfe. Tier 1 and her free logistics. And M2. The rain is very loud. Here's Enya Tempest, Tier 2, but that's the regular standard 5-star. And attack alignment. And M0. I don't know if the rain can be heard here. Here's Siris Prepins, Tier 1. Max HP alignment, the free logistics, M2. Here's Siris Ksana, Tier 2. Max HP attack, and M3. Here's Chensing Jade Art, Tier 2. Attack crit damage, and M4. Here's Katya Rhapsody, Tier 1. And attack alignment. And M3. Here's Katya Dawnwing, Tier 1. Attack alignment. And M3. Here's Acacia, Tier 2. And the free logistics that we got, M3. And again, if you have a built Test Magician, you can use it on Enya Tempest. And here's Vidya Celestials 1, Tier 1. And attack alignment with her signature weapon, M3. Here's Bubu the Geomancer, which I rarely use, Tier 5, purple. I'd say it's either attack crit damage or attack alignment for a ballistic DPS. And Bubu is M0. And here's Nerida Styx Envoy with Tier 5 purple, attack alignment, and also M0. Here's Clarina Crimson Moon, also Tier 5 purple, and attack alignment. And another M0. And lastly, Longyan Divine Fox, Tier 2. And attack crit damage, M1, and that's about it.